Welcome back to part two, where we'll continue this breakdown of this woman's story where she cheated on her husband with her personal trainer. There's a lot to be learned here and a lot of things that you can learn to apply to your relationships and dating situations. So let's get back into it and learn something.
Probably need to tell him.
No, probably. Like, what do you need to do?
I feel like I need to tell him because I feel like if I don't, it's just going to be preventing us, I guess, from truly living honestly.
Yeah. Will this end everything?
I don't know if it will. I don't think it will. I just think it's going to make it harder. I don't know what it'll do. I mean, he's definitely forgiving and really understanding.
But I mean, y'all have been in counseling and you've talked about this. And
we've talked about everything, and I've just totally denied doing anything more than just communication, meeting him, all that.
Okay.
So
she cheats with this dude. She's figuring out, do I want to tell him or do I not want to tell him? So what is she really asking herself? Should I tell him? What she's looking for is permission to not tell him, or the answer for her to be a good chimpanzee. All right. So I talk about this all the time. Like, women are very driven by what other people's opinions are going to be of them. They don't like to say that. It's not something that I'll get pushback sometimes from women. That's not true. I don't care what anyone thinks. Okay, but your behavior shows otherwise. If you look at the behavior of women, they're very sensitive to what other people think. Not a bad thing, though, really. In fact, I truly tend to not give a shit about what other people think. That tends to hurt me. It hurts me from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective. I'm thing is, it's funny. I'm professionally trained on how to be persuasive and how to persuade others and get people to like me and all that stuff. And I just sometimes don't give a shit because my guy brain is like, well, I don't care what I'm going to do what I think's right. And I don't care. Right. And sometimes having women around me to say, you know what, maybe you should care. That can be a good influence on me. Okay. So this isn't a criticism. The fact that women are more sensitive about social opinions, that can be very helpful. In fact, if you own a business and you're hiring marketing and salespeople, having a marketing or sales people that are women, that, obviously it's a personal assessment, not a gendered one, but women that are sensitive and understanding about what the perceptions are going to be can be very useful, right? In that position. It can be very useful for your own social standing to have a woman that is paying attention to these things. You know what I mean? So this isn't a criticism. It's just the truth of female nature. They are very sensitive and very aware of what's going on socially. And they tend to, it's what I call being a good chimp. They want to be a good chimpanzee, whereas men don't care as much about being seen as good as they care about as being seen as capable. So men want to be the useful chimp. My mammalian brain says, be a useful chimpanzee. I want to provide value in some way. I want to be useful. But if I'm a dickhead and people don't always like me, I'm okay with that as long as I'm useful. That tends to be how a guy works, where girls are more sensitive to being seen as good. They want to be useful if it means they'll be seen as good. You see, they want to be liked. And it makes sense from an evolutionary perspective why we evolved this way. That being said, though, she doesn't care about this guy that she's married to as much as she cares about herself and how it's going to look. So she's not saying what's the best thing for him or what's the best thing for the relationship. What she's really saying, when you read between the lines of what she says, is what is going to be the right answer that makes me a good person. Okay. So that's whether she tells this guy or doesn't, she's going to do what others will think will make her the good person to do so. And a lot of times, in her case, she comes from what sounds like a religious background. She's watching this guy's show and he seems to talk about accountability and some of these things. So her social influences are telling her that if she cheats and lies about it, as she has already done and continues to lie about it, that she's the bad chimpanzee. And being a bad chimpanzee means that she shouldn't have other mating opportunities and other opportunities in life, right? The bad chimpanzees get ostracized. Okay. So that doesn't feel good to her. She wants to be seen as a good chimpanzee, and her circles tend to be telling her, hey, you should tell the truth, right? Now, if she has a bunch of ratchet, if she was a different woman with a bunch of ratchet friends around her who are like, nah, girl, you don't need to tell him shit. You know, they get together and they talk crap about their guy or their husband or the man that they're with. You know, they have these catty conversations, and some of them cheat, and then they tell their girlfriends about it, and the girlfriends help them hide it. That's usually what a girl's social circle looks like here in 2024, particularly the younger ones, girls who are under the age of 35. And so, like, if that's if that's her social circle is what she's doing, and then she has other feedback of people saying, no, you know what, don't tell him, it's just gonna upset him, it's gonna ruin the relationship. There's more information, there's more pressure for a girl to not tell about her infidelity and about her wrong, her relationship boundary crossing. There's more information for a girl to say, no, don't tell him. So most girls, you have to understand the girl you are with right now, the girl you settle with, the girl you're dating, if she's fucking around on you, the chances of her telling the truth are pretty much close to zero. All right. It's pretty close to zero that girl is going to tell you about it unless she's pushed into it. Which in this case, this girl wouldn't even be calling in the show if she hadn't gotten caught. And that's another thing I'll get to in a second, right? If she hadn't gotten caught, she wouldn't even be calling the show. She wouldn't have this moral dilemma. If she banged this dude, got away with it with no social repercussions, she may have banged him a few more times if she didn't already, and she's just lying on the show, right? But she might have banged him a few more times and then just said, okay, like, I'm going to keep that in my fantasies, not tell my husband, and go back to my life and meet my transactional needs. And she might never tell the story. Most girls who cheat on their husbands, there's so many stories about this. They cheat on their husbands, they cheat on their boyfriends. They do things sexually that their guy doesn't know about, whether it's in their past or while in the relationship, and they never tell the guy. And you guys will never know about it. That's just the reality of it, which is why frame is so important and desire is important. And which is why having people reading skills is so important. If you enjoy this content, please show your gratitude with a like, a subscribe, and don't forget, I got a free community, link is in the description, where I can impart some skill sets to help you with your relationships, your mindset, and your general success in life. We can get off these platforms with the censorship and have real discussions there. And it's free, so don't forget to get in that community. I mean, and it would be one thing if she could cheat and then come back to the relationship, and the relationship would somehow magically be better for it, or something. There's those that rationalize that. That's never with women, particularly doing the cheating, never the case. If she sleeps or steps out with somebody else sexually, she will never see you the same again. That's the reality of it. All right. And there's very few small chances or cases where she can do that and the two can rekindle and then be better from it and overcome her sleeping with another person. It kind of depends about her motivation and why she slept with the guy. Was it a revenge cheat? Was it, what was the reasons for it? You know what I mean? And so that's something to dive into maybe in the community if you guys join it. Ask the question if you're more curious about that. But generally speaking, though, there's something that about the guy she cheats with that she sees as better than the person that she's cheating on, right? The guy, her husband or whatever, probably several things. And that is, that's now an imprint in her mind. It's an imprint for her to go get sexual needs met and to get dicked down by somebody else. It's an imprint in her mind that's other guys are better than who she's with. And so she's never going to see the guy that she's with as the best choice. And then therefore she's never going to be happy because that means that she's effectively settled with the guy that she's with. And no girl feels good about settling.
In your gut, what do you think you should do?
I probably need to tell him.
No, probably.
I just think it's going to make it harder. I don't know what it'll do. I mean, he's definitely forgiving and really understanding.
But I mean, y'all have been in counseling and you've talked about this. And
we've talked about everything, and I've just totally denied doing anything more than just communication, meeting him, all that.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh my goodness.
And y'all just hooked up one time?
Yes. It was the hookup and then done. And everything kind of hit the fan. Like, as in he found out about us communicating, and it was like almost like a rescue for me because it was just not going to go well from there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at that. You know, she says what happened, right, was the guy found out about it. She hasn't come clean. She's been lying about it. But the guy, her husband, found out about her infidelity, right? Found out about her cheating. That's what stopped it from going further than one encounter. Not like her consciousness, not like her feelings of remorse or her bad feelings for what she's done. And in fact, she's not even coming from a place. She feels bad, but she feels bad because I'm a bad person for doing this, or a bad chimpanzee. Not, I feel bad because I'm probably irreparably hurt the person I'm supposed to be in love with. And that's one thing you'll see. If you notice the language she uses as she describes her husband in this scenario, it's not language of somebody who sees her husband as her best choice. It's not the language of somebody who has awe and respect and burning desire for this man. It's the language of somebody who doesn't want to be seen as a bad person, who cares about this person, but has more of a pity for him rather than a desire for him. And that's what you're going to see. She's not trying to have that on purpose. That's just the language that she's going to illustrate. That's the language that you're going to hear when she describes these scenarios. And I want you to be aware of that.
What did your counselor tell you?
Well, we have never met one-on-one, so we're doing it through our church, and it's a couples counseling.
Okay.
And so I still haven't even been honest with the counselor because I would have to say it in front of both of them. And I'm like, I don't know if he low-key knows or something, but because I don't know. But he hasn't really told me anything about it because no one knows.
So here's what I'll tell you. Your husband knows.
Okay.
And he might not know that y'all slept together.
Dr. John here is correct. Okay. So he does know. He knows something is up. He has cognitive dissonance. He's doing what men do in this scenario, which is they lie to themselves. They kind of, and this is why like guys are so focused on, oh, I need proof. They want to like prove stuff. They want to see the texts. They want the private investigator to catch them red-handed, take photos. I mean, they want all the stuff, even though we have a no-fault divorce nation pretty much, meaning that if somebody cheats on somebody, it doesn't really affect the divorce proceedings that much. It's not, there's no fault. You know what I mean? It's not, nobody gets an extra penalty of cheating is involved necessarily. I'm not an attorney though. So, I mean, obviously different states will have different things and, there's different ways somebody could be seen in court, but generally speaking though, there's not really much of a benefit from a legal standpoint most of the time, unless there's a prenup that states certain things like to catch somebody red-handed or to be able to prove it in a court of law. But yet like guys want to prove it to themselves because they're gaslighting themselves. They're being gaslit and they're being lied to by the other person. And guys will lie to themselves. Women are better at not lying to themselves because they're more protective Women can lie to themselves all the time about certain things, right? But when it comes to infidelity, they tend to be more like, let me figure this out, right? They tend to like, be more cautious and less likely to lie to themselves when a guy is trying to gaslight them with this. What they'll do though, a lot of times is a woman will know the guy's lying and just accept it and move forward. I've seen that more often with physical cheating, as long as the guy is not continuing a relationship with the girl he physically cheated with, that happens pretty often. But what doesn't happen as often is the girl is just sort of having that cognitive dissonance and no, I don't know, they didn't sleep together. That happens a lot less for women, I think. I mean, this is my anecdotal experience and what I've seen. I know for a fact because I watch guys do it. Men lie to themselves so often. A lot of divorce attorneys too will tell you this too. Is that the guy will be like, he'll just give excuse after excuse after excuse. And you're sitting back going, dude, she's cheating on you. Like, and he's just giving, he just won't really accept it or believe it until it's right up in front of his face. So this is pretty common, right? And notice how she's lying to the therapist and stuff. And let's look at the role of therapy in here, right? So what's the purpose of therapy? If the husband truly thought that she didn't cheat on him, why would they be going to couples counseling? Why would they be going to this, church group and this couples thing and be working on their relationship? So what that implies is the relationship's not happy. And the relationship is not happy from her side of it, not necessarily his. He's not happy because he knows something's wrong and that she at least desired another man and crossed the relationship boundaries. Right? He knows something's up and that's why he's not happy. But the reality is she's not happy because she doesn't have the desire. She doesn't desire this man. And you can hear it in the way that she talks about him, right? She is not interested in his feelings. I mean, she doesn't want to make him feel bad, but it's more about her not looking bad. And that's kind of really what you see. And this is what it sounds like. When a woman doesn't desire the guy that she's married, and the guy that she married isn't her best choice, this is how she sounds. And notice how this is how most wives sound when they talk about the guy that they married. She might not be talking about cheating, could be talking about doing chores or going on vacation together, but she'll talk about this person like he's some kind of roommate that she has to, or a coworker, or somebody that she has to sort of cooperate with. And she's got to be like, concerned about his feelings. You know what I mean? It's not this, she doesn't talk about him like it's somebody that she really wants to bang. Like, do you get any sense as she talks? I know there's a context here and she's not talking about something that's pleasant to talk about, but do you get any sense that she's somebody who wants to bang her husband? Like, there's zero sense of that. You know what I mean? All she's focused on is how to not look bad in this scenario. And that leads to the reasons for the counseling. Most women in relationships go to counseling because they want to not look bad. It has nothing to do with fixing the relationship. Because if it had anything to do with fixing the relationship, she'd be going to counseling and then saying, okay, I slept with somebody else. The sex isn't really that good in our relationship. And I ended up sleeping with somebody else. And I'm sorry about that. And let's talk about it. Let's see if we can fix it or if we need to break up. That's not the discussion. That would be an accountability related, discussion that she's not having. Instead, she's pretending like she didn't sleep with anybody and lying to the therapist. Most women, when they go to couples counseling, lie to the couples counselor. Okay. Because they're not there to fix the relationship. They're there to look better. They want to feel like they've done all the right things. So when it's time to finally discard the relationship, she can pat herself on the back on the way out and blame the guy while she's doing it to save her own ego and self-esteem. That's how most women will exit these scenarios. And she is on her way out. She is just trying to not look like the bad person on the way. Okay. Now, this is a brief assessment and who knows how it really turns out, but that is what we're looking at right now. Some miracle happens from when this show was filmed to afterwards, and it changes those outcomes and changes those things. Great for them. But what I foresee is this moving in a direction where she discards the relationship really more than anybody else. Or there's a small chance that she settles in and kind of hunkers into the relationship, not really being happy and just sort of, you know, resolving to hang up her sexual self for the time being and let those kids get a little older or whatever. But more than likely, she's out of the relationship. With that, let's go over some things to look at so you can cheat proof your relationship so that this does not happen to you. Okay, so what we're looking at here is this is my cheat proof guide. Now, if you guys get on my community at school, and if you're in any of my programs, you'll have a copy of this guide. But you'll get it for free just by signing up to school. So the guide to cheat proofing your relationship will be broken up into several emails, and you'll get it in your email. It's part of your newsletter. So when you initially sign up, I got several emails that'll come out. It'll go over all this stuff and how to cheat proof your relationship, the science behind it, the psychology, all that stuff. And it's all for free. Okay. This is just for you to use. All right. To your advantage, because I think that this information is so valuable and something that anybody could implement, and really anybody should have, in my opinion, which is why I offer it for free. You want to look at the model for cheating like this. You have like a natural tendency to want to mate, switch, or cheat, and so does your girl. Okay. Your girl is part of her DNA in some way, shape, or form to cheat on you at some point or mate switch. That is the reality that we're in. That's what the chimpanzee brain, the mammalian brain, is focused on. Is you'll bond, and we can look at it neurochemically. You'll bond easily in the beginning, and you'll maintain some semblance of a bond for the first couple years, and then that bond will drop off, and your desire neurochemicals won't look any different than a single person. And that's for her particularly by past 2 years, which is why from a research perspective, we don't consider 2 years even a long-term relationship at that point. A real relationship starts after the 2-year mark. If we're going to do any kind of data collecting for long-term relationships, it has to be past 2 years. And usually they try to do past the year 8, because between 7 and, right around the year 7 is when things tend to fall apart. It's right around year 7 in a marriage. So sometimes it's longer. So it's, they could have been together from anywhere between 7 and 10 years. Things will start to fall apart. They don't reach that next milestone. And the reason why is because desire is not maintained in the relationship. And the reason that she's going to mate, switch, or cheat, or want to mate, switch, or cheat, the biggest reason for her is desire or satisfaction with you. By the way, that's not for you. You're different as a man, okay? But her biggest reason is desire, satisfaction, okay? If she's sexually happy with you and desires you and thinks about you when you're not around, right? She's not cheating on you. That's the biggest layer you have from the girl, like to your advantage on the girl. So when you maintain desire and you have frame, she maintains her investment in the relationship and isn't wanting to bang other dudes. When desire drops off or goes away, you've lost your biggest defense mechanism. Okay. Now understand that even if you have impeccable game and impeccable SMV, desire satisfaction is going to drop off sometimes in any relationship. There's going to be times where she's mad at you. There's going to be times where she's just not feeling it, right? So that's going to happen throughout a long-term relationship. You just don't want it to be a permanent state of affairs, okay? And for you, it's different because you could be at the utmost desire for your wife and still bang some other girl. Guys are meant to spread seed. That's how we're more sexually driven for variety than women are, in a sense. So you can bang a girl without any emotional attachment that's not as attractive as your wife and then go back home to your wife.
Ask a woman, you love your man, you love your family, you love your home, you love what you built. Yep. All right. You see Brad Pitt or Denzel Washington or whatever standing there, would you risk everything you built with your man just to sleep with him? And women, look, they'll go, nah, I wouldn't. And they'll pass the test. They'll be like, they look good, but I wouldn't. Ask guys the same thing, boom, love your woman, the kids, the house. Yeah. You see that girl passed out behind the dumpster? Would you risk everything for a passed out woman behind a dumpster? I don't want to, but look at her with garbage on. She looks so cute with garbage on her.
Okay, so desire is important for you, but it's actually the least important for preventing yourself from cheating. Because, and this can be confusing both to men and women, all right? Because we're not wired the same, despite what society wants to pretend like. So as a man, you need to make sure these other things are in place so you don't cheat, because you in the right/wrong circumstance, you'll bang some other girl. And it won't matter how much you love your girl at home. That won't matter. That won't play into it. It almost never does. All right. It's a very distant number 5 on the list for a man, but for a woman, it's number 1. Okay. Her desire and her emotions for you are going to be the biggest barrier to cheating. All right. Now, this is assuming a relatively healthy woman. Some women with really unhealthy stuff going on, like sexual addiction or lots of notches, or just is perpetual cheater her whole life, serial cheaters, that sort of thing. Obviously, no defense is going to matter for those women, right? But for any woman who's relatively healthy, whether they've cheated or not cheated, the desire to mate, switch, or cheat is going to be there if she loses desire for you. If the desire and satisfaction for you is maintained, she's not going to want to do that quite so much. That's your biggest barrier. Number 2 is transparency, though. So in those moments or times when she's not feeling it for you, or she's mad at you, or she's upset, is there transparency? Could you open her phone and look at her text, look at her DMs? Do you know where she's at? Does she have a sense that you would find out? Or is she able to do things in secret? That's your next biggest thing. Remember, desire and hypergamous desire is the number 1 thing, which, by the way, if she is settled with you, the number 1 thing to prevent her from cheating is now compromised. Settling with you and you're not the most desirable she could have is going to cause her to look for satisfaction elsewhere. Doesn't mean she will necessarily 100% cheat, but she will look for it. She won't be able to help it. She won't be able to help her desire for other men and resenting you for not being the man that she would like to desire, but she can't because you're not him. You're not the guy, right? And so you never want to be with somebody who doesn't see you as the best. That's the lesson. If she doesn't see you at the best, at least in the beginning of the relationship at some point, then you don't have a foundation to fall back on when things get hard. Okay, you're almost guaranteed for failure. All right, if that's the case. But then, even if she does see you at the best, though, there's going to be times where she's not happy with you. She doesn't like you. Maybe you're away. Maybe like me, I've had to go away for military stuff. And just your distance and absence causes her to lose some desire. And she's not satisfied because you're not home, right? And so what happens next? Transparency is the biggest thing. She doesn't want to look like a bad chimpanzee. She doesn't want to look like a bad person. She doesn't want to get caught. That's the next biggest thing, is getting caught. Okay. If a girl thinks that she can get away with it and she doesn't really desire you that much, there is not much stopping her from cheating. Really. Most girls can easily fall into cheating if number 1 and number 2 aren't in place. This is why that transparency is so important. You should know, you should share each other's locations. If you're in a long-term life building relationship for safety nowadays anyway, not just for cheating prevention, you should have each other's locations. You should be able to know each other's passwords and not be worried about what you're going to find. Okay. That is an important thing, because without that transparency, if she thinks she can get away with it, she probably will try to. And let's say she's away on that real estate convention or that insurance or whatever her business or work is, and she's gone for 4 days and she's like feeling like she's on a vacation and she's another place, another time. And she hasn't been desiring you that much lately. And now she can get away with it. Circumstance where women cheat is at work. Women cheat with coworkers. Why? Because they can get away with it. They're at work. There's no transparency. You don't know what she's doing. You're not there. So the desire is less present or in her face. Or when she goes out of town for business or some kind of a girl's retreat or vacation, because the transparency isn't there. So when the desire needs to be there, that's your biggest defense, but you have to have defense number 2 in play, which is transparency. Now, the rest are much less, okay, protective, but they are there. The situation she's in, and this is why it's important that she doesn't put herself in situations where cheating could happen. Like, I'm going to the bachelorette party where male strippers are going to be trying to have sex with me. Like, maybe don't be at that bachelorette party. Maybe don't do certain types of girls' nights where you're acting like a single girl with your single friends, right? The situation she's in, because she's so influenced by the social environment, is going to be the next defense. If she is not putting herself in situations where cheating can happen, even if she loses a little transparency, and even if she's upset with you and not feeling desire in that moment, that situation she's not putting herself in is going to be something that'll save you, right? And save her. Number 4 is risk. She's not, if she thinks she could get caught, back to transparency, but if she thinks that the guy is going to be risky or the situation is going to be risky, she might shy away from it. All right. So that could be a barrier. The last part for her is identity. Yeah, she could have the value of I'm not a cheater, but women lie to themselves all the time and justify cheating all the time, even with that value. I find that the identity of I'm not this person who would do that, I'm a good girl, I feel like that's the weakest defense. It is a defense, and girls sometimes don't do it. For some girls, it's a higher defense than others. What that really is predicated on is her social circles. If she's a church-going girl with women that are her friends that would never cheat on their husbands, that part of her identity is going to be, more of a barrier. If she's with a bunch of women who are typical American women, where some of them have cheated, some of them haven't, and they would all cover for each other, well, that identity then is less strong. Now, for you protecting yourself, just real quick, I'll blow through it. It's the risk. You're worried about losing stuff. You'll bang some girl if you think you can get away with it. Your male monkey brain will do it. You're a guy. Now you need to put yourself in situations here where it's high risk. You need to mentally use your human brain to elevate the risk of stepping out in your own mind. That's how you defend yourself from doing it. Focus on the risk and what you're losing versus getting a nut on some just different girl. Think about how stupid you are to risk your life, your marriage, the drama, make your girl at home feel horrible and break her, self-esteem down just because you had a fling with some chick, right? Think about how stupid that would be for you to do that. That's your risk reward. And as a man, that's your biggest defense. Okay. Biggest defense you have is focusing on the risk of breaking your word. Your risk of just not being able to wake up in the morning and be proud of who you look at in the mirror. That risk is there. Okay. And then transparency. She can see where you're at. She can FaceTime you. She can, see who you're texting and stuff. That transparency is going to help you too, to keep you in line. And then the other things, the situation, not putting yourself in situations. Okay. Having an identity a little stronger than the girl. All right. So having the identity of I'm not a cheater, that's a little bit stronger. But the problem with identity in both cases is generally speaking, if someone thinks they can get away with it and maintain how they feel about themselves and their identity, they're going to do it. So identity tends to be weak. And guys, it's not about how hot your girlfriend is at home. That's the biggest mistake. And women don't understand that either. They think, oh, because if a woman were to cheat, she'd be cheating with a guy who she thought was better in some ways, generally speaking. So she assumes when the guy cheats that she's the girl he cheats with is somehow better. It's not true. It doesn't have to be true anyway. Sometimes it is true, but it doesn't have to be. A guy, unfortunately, like our guy brain will sleep with somebody else, even if she's not better. Okay. Just how guy brains are. Okay. So you have to elevate risk in your own head. That's what's going to keep you safe. All right. And so now you have those tools to keep yourself safe. And now we've done a little breakdown, and you can hear how women talk about this when they're being somewhat transparent, even though there's a lot of ego protection still. You can hear how women sort of talk about this. This situation you just looked at is a typical situation. And it's a situation that you got a 1 in 4 chance of finding yourself in. You have a 1 in 4 chance of being in this exact scenario if you just leave it to chance. So why would you do that? Why would you risk your whole life for chance like that when you can just do some simple things to make everything better? And it's not just about her not cheating. It's about having an amazing time on top of it. And you don't even have to do that much work. All you have to do is learn how to have frame, right? So click that link in the description, get in my community, and you can start learning to do that better so this doesn't happen to you. Hopefully you like the video, and thanks again.